Let's talk about something so many of us know intimately: anxiety. We're going to look at this not just as a modern-day feeling, but as a deep spiritual condition that Scripture speaks to directly, and see how it offers a kind of peace that our circumstances just can't touch.
So, we have to start with this question. Is anxiety just a feeling, a psychological reaction to stress, or could it be something more profound? The Bible's perspective on this might just change how you see it. You see, from a biblical standpoint, anxiety is fundamentally a struggle of the soul. It's all tied up in how we see God, whether we truly trust Him, and how we navigate life in this broken world. It really is an internal battle over who or what we're depending on. Now, to really understand the Bible's answer to anxiety, we've got to go back. We need to understand the world that these words were first spoken into. So where does all this unease, this disquiet, actually come from? Just try to picture it. Life in the ancient world was just relentlessly uncertain. When Jesus told people not to worry about what they would eat or wear, He wasn't talking to people with full pantries. Survival literally depended on the next harvest, the political climate, your health, and there were no safety nets. Worry wasn't an abstract idea. It was a daily, grinding reality.
But as real as those daily threats were, Scripture points to an origin that goes so much deeper. The real ultimate root of all our anxiety is our separation from God. It's that break in the very relationship we were created for. Think about it. When sin entered God's perfect creation, it shattered everything. Insecurity, fear, scarcity, and a deep-seated distrust of God's goodness, that became the new normal. And in a world that's fractured like that, of course anxiety is a natural response. It's a painful symptom of a much deeper problem.
Okay, so we've looked at where it comes from. But what does the Bible actually mean when it talks about anxiety? This is where the original language gives us this incredibly powerful insight.
The main Greek word used in the New Testament is merimnaō, and its meaning is just so revealing. It doesn't just mean to worry. It literally paints a picture of being pulled apart on the inside, of having a divided heart. It's this state of being fragmented, where all our distracted concerns pull our focus and our trust away from God. And that's exactly why the command we find in Philippians chapter 4, verse 6, "Do not be anxious about anything," is so powerful. It's a direct call to bring our fragmented, merimnaō hearts back into focus. The Bible isn't concerned with a passing feeling of stress, but with a heart that has made a habit of choosing worry over prayerful, trusting dependence on God.
And the Psalms give us this beautiful, practical roadmap for how to do this. So many of them follow this exact pattern. They start with raw, gut-wrenching honesty about distress. But they don't stay there. The writer cries out to God, and then they intentionally start remembering what God has done in the past. And that process becomes a guide for us, showing us how to walk from anxiety back to trust.
And all of this, it brings us to the great turning point of the whole story. Because if our deepest anxiety comes from our separation from God, then the only real answer is someone who can bridge that gap. The answer is Jesus Christ.
You see, the good news about Jesus isn't just a comforting thought for our worries. It is the fundamental cure. It goes right to the source of all our insecurity, that alienation from God, and it gives us the one thing we desperately need: reconciliation.
First, through Jesus, our whole idea of God gets completely transformed. He shows us that God isn't some distant, angry judge. No, He is a loving, caring Father who is intimately concerned with every single detail of our lives. And think about this. So much of our anxiety is tangled up in guilt and a fear of judgment, right? Well, on the cross, Christ took the full weight of our sin on Himself. He removed the very thing that separated us from a holy God. And that gives us a whole new foundation for confidence.
And finally, His resurrection. It's the ultimate victory cry over our greatest enemy and our deepest fear, death itself. Because Christ is risen, we have a hope that is absolutely secure, a hope that goes beyond any suffering or uncertainty we could ever face here.
So, if Christ has done all of this, that's amazing news. But how do we actually live in that peace day by day? How do we make this a reality in our lives?
Now, this is so important to get right.
The peace Jesus gives isn't some magic bubble that keeps all difficulty away. The Bible is very clear we will face trials. Instead, it's a deep, unshakable trust in God's care that holds us steady through the storms. It's a peace that's anchored in who He is, not in our ever-changing circumstances.
And living in this peace means we have to be intentional. We have to cultivate a heart of dependence. That means when we feel fear rising, we actively remember what God has promised in His Word. It means choosing to trust His good and loving plan even when it makes no sense to us. It means making prayer our first move, not our last resort. And it means looking at our worries through the lens of His eternal kingdom, which puts everything in its proper perspective.
So in the end, this whole discussion, it's not just information, it's an invitation, a personal call from Jesus Himself to anyone who is weary and weighed down by the anxieties of this life. He doesn't offer us a technique or a formula. He offers us Himself as the only true source of rest for our souls.
And here is the beautiful, redemptive truth. In the hands of our loving God, not even our struggles with anxiety are wasted. Through Jesus, He transforms them into opportunities to finally let go of trying to hold it all together ourselves, and instead, learn to depend more and more deeply on the one who holds us, and our future absolutely secure.